time for our weekend recap. We're going to start it off with the top-ranked card, Vasyl Lomachenko's long-awaited, long-anticipated ring return. What was a very important fight for Vasyl Lomachenko, what remains of his career, an important fight psychologically for the fighter.
He went with Masayoshi Nakatani for obvious reasons.
Went with Masayoshi Nakatani because Masayoshi would be a common opponent between himself and the man who defeated him,
Lopez.
Teofimo Lopez. And there were big question marks hovering over Vasyl Lomachenko's head ahead of this fight. Legitimate question marks. Can he go back to being the same guy that he was before that Teofimo Lopez fight? Or, did losing that fight humble him enough to where he just can't get back there?
Not psychologically.
In this fight, Vasyl Lomachenko would attempt to answer those questions in front of the spectators in what is the spectator sport. Answer those questions
to everyone,
to himself. I want to say that the aesthetic of the match was not what I predicted, not what I envisioned. I did go with Vasyl Lomachenko to win the fight by way of a points decision on the premise that Vasyl Lomachenko would make a conscious effort to go to Masayoshi Nakatani's body, consistently go there to break the fighter down. That's not exactly what happened.
He was targeting Masayoshi's head more than anything.
Didn't see a conscious effort from Vasyl Lomachenko to continuously go to Masayoshi Nakatani's body. If he made a commitment to anything, it was the head punches. If he made a commitment to anything, it was the straight left hand. The straight left hand that he couldn't miss Masayoshi with the goddamn thing. Vasyl Lomachenko was able to consistently gain safe entry around Masayoshi Nakatani's jab, his lead hand.
He was able to gain safe entry a number of ways.
Vasyl Lomachenko was able to stay with Masayoshi Nakatani within striking distance, stay on him, in order to slip past Masayoshi Nakatani's straight punches, his jab, his lead hand.
That keeps a guy under pressure.
Vasyl Lomachenko staying within Masayoshi's striking distance, close enough that it seems like you can hit him, and then when you try to, he darts past your shot.
And plants one on you.
It's counterpunching is what it is. Hitting a guy with shots that he doesn't see, thus he doesn't brace himself for, and nobody likes that. Staying within striking distance of Masayoshi Nakatani creates pressure, psychological pressure, to respond because it seems like the guy's right in front of you. It seems like you can hit him with a shot. He's staying with you. He's staying on you. You fire a shot. He slips past it, counters the shot. Essentially what he's doing is creating an environment that warrants a response. And once Masayoshi tries to respond,
he gets countered.
It's a form of pressure. Fighting is what it is. And there's more than one way to apply pressure.
This is one.
So Lomachenko's way of applying pressure in this situation was to consistently crowd the more statuesque fighter, the much taller Masayoshi Nakatani, who can generate devastating power if he gets full extension on the shot. You staying with this guy, staying on top of him, makes it that much harder to do. So for what was the naturally smaller fighter, much smaller fighter to Masayoshi Nakatani, it behooved Vasyl Lomachenko to not allow Masayoshi to really get full extension on those punches. He stays close enough to this guy. Close.
The closer, the better.
Close enough that Masayoshi Nakatani can't get full extension on a punch. Close enough that if Masayoshi goes for a shot, Vasyl Lomachenko is not so far on the outside
can't reach him,
that he can't counter. He's close enough to this guy to where the countering opportunities are there.
He can counter.
He can step into his shots in the pocket. Can step into them and land them because he's not so far on the outside. The closer a smaller fighter, like Vasyl Lomachenko is, to a more statuesque fighter like a Masayoshi Nakatani, the closer he is to him, the better.
And that's why he couldn't miss him with the left hand.
This was how Vasyl Lomachenko was able to consistently gain safe entry on what is a rather large lightweight, one of the biggest I've ever seen. And, sailing past the straight shots, being close enough to do so, that's how. That's made possible by Vasyl Lomachenko's angling and fancy feet. You talk about trading, you talk about the exchanges. In the pocket, the smaller fighter with the shorter arms has the advantage because he doesn't need as much room as that taller fighter with the longer arms to get off shots in quick succession, shots that actually have something behind them, the way that Vasyl Lomachenko did. Masayoshi Nakatani's height, his length,
his reach,
it serves him best, would have served him best. Long range. Problem with that is he couldn't keep Vasyl Lomachenko out. He tried. But you'll notice that Vasyl Lomachenko got off to a rather fast and aggressive start. Fast and furious. He wanted to make a statement early on, and he did. And in doing so, create a very frustrating environment for Masayoshi Nakatani, not only physically, but mentally. This guy's been nailing you from the start of this fight.
The beginning.
You can't seem to keep him out. You don't know where the punches are coming from. And this is just repeating itself round after round. And I want to make this clear that fighting this kind of a fight, if you're Vasyl Lomachenko, doesn't boil down to just application. Doesn't boil down to just nuts and bolts. You have to have the athleticism. You have to have the quickness and the frame of mind in order to even create this environment. I mean, that's how you know that Vasyl Lomachenko went out there looking to make a statement.
That's what this was all about.
Having the frame of mind in order to do so, because you want to prove to the world that you're better than Teofimo Lopez in spite of what happened in your last fight. You want to beat this guy better than Lopez did so that you can indirectly prove you're better than Lopez. And in a rematch situation, well, it won't go the way that the first fight did. I mean, essentially what I'm getting at is, Vasyl Lomachenko won this fight by way of his fancy feet and his angling, his lead left hands, and crowding Masayoshi Nakatani. I mean, these are the nuts and bolts. The specifics as far as what he did, the why he did it, has everything to do with the headspace that he's in. What is his motivation? And his motivation is upstaging Teofimo Lopez, because this guy, Masayoshi Nakatani, he made Teofimo Lopez look bad. You want to go out there and look better against Masayoshi than Lopez did, so you can prove you're better than Lopez. And if you have a great showing, maybe you get that second fight with Teofimo. Maybe that's what happens. This is the headspace that Vasyl Lomachenko put himself in ahead of this match, and this is why he fought the way that he fought. And he looked great. Looked sensational. I have to say that it's the best I've seen him since he moved up to 135 pounds. It's the best I've seen him since he moved up to the lightweight division, if I'm being honest. I haven't seen Vasyl Lomachenko look this good since he was down there at 130 pounds. This has to be the most dominant showing we've seen from Vasyl Lomachenko in recent memory. Something akin to what we saw in the Nicholas Walters fight, the Roman Martinez fight. Nakatani's a credible scalp. He's a strong guy, a lot of courage, a lot of heart, battled through adversity in fights. So it's saying a lot when Vasyl Lomachenko rebounding off a loss while Nakatani is coming off a career best win. It's really saying something that he can go out there and look the way that he looked against Masayoshi Nakatani, because we know, at minimum we know,
This guy's no mug.
he's nobody's patsy, he's nobody's pushover. He's a very good fighter who had absolutely no answers for what was a very motivated Vasyl Lomachenko, and we all know what was motivating.
We know what this 9th round stoppage was about.
We know what message Vasyl Lomachenko was trying to send and who he was trying to send it to. Masayoshi Nakatani was worse for wear, taking clean shots. He was exhausted, stumbling around all over the place. He didn't know where he was anymore. Fight gets stopped in the 9th. Congratulations to Vasyl Lomachenko for not only rebounding off that loss to Teofimo Lopez, but rebounding in sensational fashion. If he was looking to make a statement, he did. Now, I caught some of Gervonta Davis's fight with Mario Barrios for what was a Mickey Mouse belt at 140 pounds, a Reggie belt. I'm sure that Gervonta Davis's fans and his core supporters are very taken with what they saw from him, because it was a competitive fight. Mario Barrios did give him some good work. Mario Barrios, who's very statuesque as far as 140-pounders go, didn't abandon his height, didn't abandon his jab, stayed behind it. And it was a good fight.
Entertaining.
Competitive in spots, Gervonta Davis managed to score several knockdowns throughout the course of the match as the match wore on. The best way to interpret the match is as a litmus test for what Gervonta Davis is capable of as a junior welterweight.
That's the best way to look at it.
If you're going to look at it as anything at all, okay, it's a litmus test. It's a litmus test for what Gervonta Davis can do at 140 pounds against this level of an opponent.
And what's this guy's level?
We don't actually know. He hasn't faced the Josh Taylors, Regis Prograriuses, Kirill Rilliks, Ivan Baranchiks, Jose Zapatas, Victor Pistols of the world.
Mario ain't fought the top shelf 140-pounders.
The Jose Ramirez's of this division, he ain't fought him, so we don't even know that he's on their level.
We really don't.
In that way, we don't know that Gervonta Davis is either. Though I don't think it matters, because before the fight, Leonard Ellerby let it be known that Gervonta would not be having an extended stay in the 140-pound division.
That we would love to see him fight. So, do you kind of know where
he will
he's
not
at
be
with it?
campaigning at 140?
Okay.
I can clear that
I
up.
think that's just ultimately what everybody wants
Yeah,
to know.
no, he's not campaigning
Okay.
at 140.
So in that way, it doesn't actually matter how Gervonta Davis looked at 140 pounds against Mario Barrios, and it doesn't matter who Mario Barrios is to that division or was, because Gervonta's not staying there anyway.
I mean, if it's a litmus test.
Or it was, then what kind of litmus test was it? A litmus test intended to test Gervonta Davis's abilities at 140 pounds where he's not going to be campaigning anyway? He just came up here to fight for a Reggie belt?
Okay.
He's going to move back down?
Okay.
Might be thinking to yourself, well then, what was the point of all of this? That's not a full-fledged world title fight. This ain't a full-fledged champion.
You came all this way to fight for a Mickey Mouse belt?
Don't think of this fight as a precursor or a prelude to something bigger at 140 pounds with anybody else's fighter.
It's not.
Our thing is this, we work smarter, not harder. So we keep everything in-house. Mayweather Promotions, PBC, we all one family. So, we're not gonna go nowhere and make another company great. So we got plenty of fighters that's at 140, 135, and 130. We're gonna continue to fight the fighters that we got to fight.
Yeah, maybe the PBC and TMT have fighters at 135. Maybe they got fighters at 140, but what they ain't got are champions, world champions, full-fledged world champions in possession of full-fledged world titles. That's what they ain't got.
Not at those weights.
If the intention is to keep everything in the family, keep everything in-house, that essentially means you can't expect Gervonta Davis to fight for a world title, a full-fledged world title, anywhere between 135 and 140 pounds because they ain't got any over there for him to fight for. All belts, or most of them, at 135 pounds are on the top-ranked side of things. You go up in weight to 140 pounds, the same applies. Josh Taylor's in possession of all the world titles there, and in so many words, what Floyd Mayweather Jr. is letting you know is you shouldn't expect Gervonta Davis to fight with those fighters. And Leonard Ellerbe said as much before the fight. They don't place any value on world titles.
Tank didn't have a title or one or two titles. And I'm going to go even a step further. Out of the 14, 15,000 people that we're going to have here tomorrow night, most of them couldn't even tell you what kind of champion Tank is, what kind of champion he has been, and for that matter, really, who is Mario Barrios? They don't know, and they don't care. All that matters is that this guy, he's been the face of our culture. The younger generation have gravitated towards him because he gives them exactly what they want to see, and that's on a consistent basis, and they don't mind paying their money to come see him.
It doesn't get more clear-cut than that. It doesn't get more transparent. The people over there at the TMT don't place any emphasis or any value on world titles, facing world champions, those kinds of fights to where their fighter has to test his mettle against the best and brightest fighters that are out there. So you don't have to lose sleep over Davis versus Taylor or Davis versus Lopez. Probably don't even have to lose sleep over Davis versus Ryan Garcia. They have every intention of keeping everything in-house.
And they can do that.
And you can spend your hard-earned dollars to see it, if that's your prerogative, if that's what you want to do. But as far as boxing in the traditional sense, who the best and brightest fighters are, how you go about getting that answer, Gervonta Davis is not a part of that conversation. And we've known this for a long time. We've known this when he skirted around most of, if not all of, the good fights at 130, all the good fights at 135, and all the good fights at 140, with all the good fighters. I mean, it's simple, really. What need is there for Gervonta Davis to fight for world titles against world champions when he's not a part of the world of boxing? When Jose Ramirez crossed over to the DAZN side of things to face the then reigning WBO world champion Maurice Hooker, that was a cross-promotional, cross-network situation. Those are two different world champions that are with two different outfits getting together to find out who's the best one among them. In the traditional sense of the word, that was boxing. And Gervonta Davis and the TMT, that's not boxing. You're trying to create a world within a world to where you don't have to fight the other good fighters that are out there.
Because you don't want to.
And I don't think people are really understanding this. I don't think they're processing it. You know, I saw a comment on Twitter after the fight from a guy named Jorge Alvarado saying, if you don't have Tank on your pound-for-pound list, something is clearly wrong with you. And he should be speaking for himself because the pound-for-pound list rates fighters against each other. That's what it does, in a nutshell. Gervonta Davis is not in competition with any of those fighters, so why would he be ranked among them?
You heard what his promoter said.
Our thing is this. You know, we work smarter, not harder. So we keep everything in-house. Mayweather Promotions, PBC. I mean, we all one family, so I mean, we're not gonna go nowhere and make another company great. So we got plenty of fighters that's at 140, 135, and 130. We're gonna continue to fight the fighters that we got to fight.
Last night's fight, Gervonta Davis didn't face the best junior welterweight the division has to offer, the best one or the second best or even the third best, the fourth best. I mean, that's not who he was in there with, and that's not what their concern is.
So why would you be concerned with a pound-for-pound list?
Gervonta Davis is not in competition with the fighters that you find on that list. He's not even in competition with the other 140-pounders in the 140-pound division that he was in last night. He's not in competition with any of those people, so why would he be ranked among them?
Once again, I don't think people are understanding this.
If your intention isn't to face the best 130-pound fighter, the best 135-pound fighter, or the best 140-pound fighter, if it's not your intention to face that fighter, if it's your intention to simply stage in-house events with in-house fighters, regardless of their rank, regardless of their status, regardless of them not being champions, if that's what your intention is, then the pound-for-pound list and that entire conversation doesn't have a goddamn fucking thing to do with you or your fighter.
I don't rate Gervonta Davis.
And I give a rat's furry fucking ass who does, because I don't.